So you're fluent now, right? Most of us who have dedicated ourselves to language study face this question upon returning home from study abroad. And for most of us, our language skills have improved significantly, but not to the point where we would feel completely comfortable labeling ourselves as fluent. In fact, while abroad, our eyes were open to just how much effort and time it takes to truly master another language. Our language skills are better than they've ever been, we're excited and motivated, and we've returned home with the vague goal of becoming fluent, but we usually lack specific plans for how to actually improve in a non-immersive environment. Additionally, many of us are close to graduation, so our language learning has now become a personal project, independent from the structure of academic courses. So what now? How do we improve? Use Duolingo or Rosetta Stone? Text message with host families and friends abroad? Watch movies? Read books? These are the most common strategies I hear from recent returnees, and certainly anything is better than nothing. Unfortunately, if your goal is to maintain your current proficiency level or improve it further, these strategies alone are not going to cut it. Take a look at them again. What's missing? There is one very important thing in particular that is missing from this list, and it is speaking practice, specifically with native speakers at length and in real time. Now, before I dive into concrete tips for improving your language as a whole, I'm going to make a special case for prioritizing speaking practice, because many times when I ask students to do this, they respond somewhat like this guy, which is to say, it gives them a certain amount of anxiety. So if you're thinking, but do I really have to? Consider that speaking is often the language skill that we are the most proud of having improved while abroad. It took a great deal of effort to get to where you are now, and you probably had to endure some embarrassing or at the very least uncomfortable moments. Now that you're back home, you are far less likely to spontaneously encounter sustained, authentic opportunities to practice speaking on a regular basis. And at the same time, this may be the skill that is the most important to you on a personal and perhaps even professional level. Now you may be thinking, I can practice speaking with Duolingo or Rosetta Stone, so it's worth highlighting the difference between using an app and speaking with humans. Apps like Duolingo, if they require you to speak at all, accept a menu of pre-identified responses, and they rely on asynchronous audio recordings, which typically do not have a time limit for your answer. They also do not adapt their next response based on what you said. These apps generally aim to build skills in a structured but not very genuine way, and they tend to focus on a standard dialect. By contrast, conversing with native speakers challenges you over and over in myriad ways. They may drive the conversation in a direction you weren't expecting, and they await your response in real time. The content of your conversation is more likely to be authentic and relevant to your present circumstances, and therefore you may find it more engaging than engineered language practice. Of course, there's also the inherent challenge that native speakers may speak quickly, with a strong accent or pronounced dialect, and they may use words that aren't in your vocabulary. In short, this type of speaking practice sharpens your skills by providing authentic challenges with a built-in time crunch over and over again during the course of a single conversation. This brings us to tip number 1. Seek opportunities to converse with native speakers. Find an activity such as volunteering with international students, a social service, or even a religious organization that serves speakers of the language you're learning. You might also seek out a conversation partner. Either way, the regularity of the activity is important. Just as with physical exercise, the goal is to build a habit or a routine. When you are practicing, go beyond small talk if you can. Work on an activity or a project, or have a deeper, more wide-ranging conversation. During the time that you're practicing, set a firm ground rule for yourself that you will not switch back to your first language, even if you're stuck. Remember, your language improved so much while you were abroad, in large part because you were forced to persevere, whether you were exhausted, embarrassed, homesick, tongue-tied, or just really needed to find a bathroom. So, do as you did then. Gesture, talk around words you don't know, and accept that you will sometimes feel like a fool. Tip number 2. Read aloud and keep a notebook of new vocabulary. Choose a book that is appropriately challenging for you. For example, you might consider young adult novels over works of literature. By reading out loud, you can also practice your speaking skills, at least the pronunciation and rhythm. And by writing down and periodically looking up words you don't know, you engage with new vocabulary rather than zoning out and breezing over it as you read. If you find that you keep writing down and looking at the same word over and over again, take a step further and create a drawing of the word and label it. Tip number 3. Watch films in your second language, but do it strategically. Plunking down to watch a movie in your second language with no subtitles and telling yourself that you're building your listening comprehension skills can be a bit of self-delusion. Most of us will space out and over-rely on the visuals, only retaining new vocabulary if it's repeated again and again, usually curse words. But if you turn the subtitles on, you're likely to over-rely on them instead of straining your ear and your mind to really listen and wrestle with the audio. So here's something to try. Watch a single scene 3 times. First, with no subtitles, and take note of what you think is being said. Now rewatch the scene again with subtitles in the language of the film, for example, Italian. And note any changes or clarifications to your previous understanding. Now watch it one last time with subtitles in your first language and check your understanding again. How did you do? Did your understanding change at any point? Do this exercise for just 1 or 2 scenes and then sit back and enjoy the rest of the film. So there you have it. To recap, some strategies you can use include prioritizing speaking practice, seeking regular opportunities to converse with native speakers, reading aloud and keeping a vocabulary notebook, and watching films and using subtitles to meet you where you are. Good luck!